MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Guy. That's John. It's another edition of Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF. On your YouTube channel, or I guess our YouTube channel, your YouTube feed, on the podcast feed. If you listen to the pod, thanks. Share it. Keep helping it grow. We appreciate that. If you're watching the YouTube, either live or later, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. That's great, too. Let's also welcome back John Aiyuk. MIDDLEKAUFF is back on Twitter, for those wondering. Kind of. Can't quite tell what's happening here. Looks like you did get access back to your account, John, and announced your return with Welcome Back, the song. But you're still, it still says Aiyuk here. What's the deal?
I'm not able to change the name. So it's just I might just do a 30-day deactivation hiatus and then make a potential return. We'll see.
You know what I didn't think about until I saw this? I hadn't seen any of Aiyuk.
I cannot change the name. Every time I try, John MIDDLEKAUFF, the name that's just in front of the handle, like yours is Guy Haberman. Most people just ESPN's ESPN. It's just Fox is Fox. It denies me. And it's just like, I can't. I'm not going to spend time worrying about this. I spent a week away from this. I was completely fine. It also forced me to read. I don't read with Twitter because I just have that to get all my stuff. Instead, I go to Pro Football Talk. I'd go to the Wall Street Journal. I would just have to find news the old-fashioned way.
That's good. You're a hunter and gatherer like our forefathers.
But this slowed down my brain, and I'm not smart enough. I'm not SBF level intelligence that I can just. Twitter was a shortcut for me.
Right.
Because we often say
one's place.
Did you read that story? No, just saw the headline, and that's how I'm gathering all my information. And then it won't let me change my name back from Aiyuk. So
it didn't occur to me until I saw this. For those of you not following, John was locked out of Twitter for a week and a half or something. I didn't realize until I hadn't seen any Aiyuk tweets except for when I would go to the account to check on it. Like I was babysitting a house that had been taken over by meth dealers.
I think Twitter had kicked them out a while ago, and they were just doing their due diligence to
rehack.
Give me my shit back.
So it didn't occur to me until I saw an Aiyuk tweet appear on my feed today with Tony Soprano's face. And I'm like, wait, John's back. And then I texted you that the possibility exists that everyone's going to have a last tweet one day. That this could have been, I was like, I wonder what John's last tweet almost was. And it was this. NFL need to send drug testers to Jim Irsay's house, ? No chance he'd pass. That could have been the last one.
And see, I've come around on Jeff Saturday, but at the time that was news hits, you see it in your first reaction.
Yeah.
So Aiyuk, it had a good run. When you're hack guy, you do some thinking. You just realize anything can get hacked. Your bank accounts, you could get robbed. You just start evaluating what's important to you.
The things that you want to turn on biometric passwords for.
But even that, I was well protected. I did have that.
You had the two-factor turned on.
Yeah. It happened fast, and I didn't react because I was overwhelmed, and I just don't need it, I think. Honestly, Guy, I just don't. It doesn't make me happy.
Okay.
You are much better about compartmentalizing, avoiding. It creates. In what world would you keep doing something that makes you mad? Most people that you don't need to do, right? There's not.
You didn't like my idea for the great. We had the Great Resignation, which turned out to be mostly fake, but my idea for you was the great unfollowing.
I agree. I just don't like it. And I used to, and listen, I used to love it, and I'm sad to admit. I mean, I've been at points in my time when I was addicted to the application, and I'm going to remove it. Kind of like if you could just go cold turkey from doing drugs or alcohol, if it was I wouldn't say ruining my life, but it was negatively impacting it. I will admit that. And without it, I'm
glad you found a new lease on life.
I've been freer.
I'm glad you feel so free. John, let's tell the people about our friends. It's all good with Tito's. Tito's handmade vodka. They sponsor the podcast, which we love and appreciate. Tito's handmade vodka, holiday season is upon us. And whether you're heading out to meet friends, just chilling, looking for a new friend, bellying up to the bar, having people at your place, going to somebody else's place, Tito's, it works in every situation. Tito's handmade vodka.
Yeah, I mean, if you're eating Thanksgiving dinner next week without a Tito's and soda, a Tito's and water and lemon, as our friend and partner, even though friend would be strong, we've never met him. We've heard a lot about him, and we would love
some would
to
call
meet
it
him.
strong. Some would call it a complete mischaracterization of the facts.
Yeah, Tito Beverage, the CEO, president, founder of the company, Tito Water and Lemon. Excuse me.
How about Tito Water Lemon? That's his drink. When you are flight delayed and you're tweeting at Delta or Big Cat, help me out. Over to the bar and get yourself a little Bloody Mary with Tito's. Or you can just check out. Look at some of these Tito's. For those of you watching, you can see it. There's one drink called Tito's as easy as pie. Tito's sparkling water, fresh OJ, honey, cinnamon, and a cinnamon stick.
I'm not the biggest cinnamon guy.
Oh, I know.
I do like cinnamon rolls, actually.
Tito's Spice Cider Mule. Okay, a little warm spiced apple cider with some ginger beer. That might be the move right there.
Oh.
And some Tito's. Warm spiced apple cider and some Tito's and some ginger beer. I love the way I was just at Trader Joe's today. Got another 4-pack of my favorite ginger beer. I got 12. I got 12, 15. I'm like a coach keeping an eye on his depth chart. I got 15 of those suckers left.
Is that the only store you go? Like, you don't go to like Safeways or Albertsons or any of those? Huh?
Not really.
You just never enter those.
Avoid Safeway if I can.
Just because too big?
I just don't like the vibe in there.
Yeah.
But it's too big. It's just I can't. Trader Joe's, a very poor grocery shopper, can whip through that sucker in like
it is
15,
small.
20 minutes.
It's small.
Safeway, I'm just wandering the streets aimlessly.
But if you know what you're looking for, meat, cheese, eggs.
I never know what I'm looking for.
Gatorades, whatever.
Yeah, Gatorades. That's true. That's true. Jello on the stream asks, is the Tito's water like all mixed together? Yes, it's Tito's, it's water, and it's lemon.
Well, it's like the old school, drinkers drink. A highball was just whiskey and water. It's just
that's what a highball is.
Yeah, whiskey and water. I'm pretty sure, but
I did not know that. Highball. We're also brought to you by Manscaped. No transition there. Manscaped, promo code HAM and the number 1. HAM1 for Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping. Whether you're brand new or you've already been with us at Manscaped, you could use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Platinum Package 4.0. It's all there, John. It's all in the Platinum Package 4.0.
Manscaped.com. Use the promo code HAM and the number 1. Lawnmower 4.0. Get it for your friends. Get it for your brother-in-law. Get it for your brother. Get it for your dad. Easy Christmas gift. Easy Hanukkah gift.
Ask for it, maybe.
Yeah.
Just tell them HAM1.
Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM1. Do it.
Hanukkah. Good call. With the Platinum Package 4.0, it's a 10-part Platinum Package. Everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to Platinum. Like John said, the Lawnmower 4.0 with the skin-safe technology. It's proprietary. It's advanced. It's skin-safe technology. Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM and the number 1. 20% off, free shipping. We've been telling you about Manscaped for years. 20% off and free shipping. It's amazing to think there are still people left walking the earth who have not yet tried Manscaped. 6 million people worldwide trust them, John. That means we got, 8.4 billion people to go?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Long way to go. But we're declining in population, so. Well,
Is it 8.4? No, it's 8. It's 8.94. 8.94.
I thought we just got to 8 billion, right?
We got to 8 billion, so it's 7.94 billion people still left. I think. Could be wrong about that. Not good at math that requires that much numbers.
I would agree with this comment on just the meat. Like if you're going to do steaks or chicken, at Trader Joe's, that's limited there.
Yeah, I would agree. If you're going to do if you're just stocking up the freezer, grab a few things. I would say the bison burgers, but I'm with you. If you're really cooking up a steak, I would go somewhere else for that. Agreed.
Yeah. I did have
Butcher Box. Oh, they're not on this week.
the chicken, like the Asian,
the frozen.
Yes, pretty good.
Very good.
That's good.
Yeah, I got some.
I'd recommend that.
Good stuff there, John. Hey, I don't know if you happened to catch Around the Horn yesterday, John. Did you catch Around the Horn on Wednesday?
I may have done an IG post, and it did 5x my typical output. So, yeah, I think a lot of people
Around the Horn video,
based on just my take on Bill Plaschke's take on the current state of the Raiders' finances. That I don't know about you. I've gotten a lot of DMs LOLing about the story about Bodine and their anger toward me, and I think they associated you with me, as they should have. The way that we used to sarcastically talk about, just I don't think they believed, and when I say them, I mean the president, the owner, the core executive crew, that we ever gave them the proper level of respect.
Yeah.
And we didn't hold them in high regard as a legit NFL operation, a multi-million, some say billion-dollar business. And yeah, I've never have since, and probably never will until they get sold. And as someone DM'd me the other day, like, if the Raiders sold, if Mark ever would, what do you think they would go for? And I said, they would go for more than the Broncos, but probably less than the Commanders. But they would go for a shitload, right? They have the stadium in Vegas, the facility. Was it you? Someone forwarded me something that someone went through the facility, and they're like, this fucking place is the Taj Mahal.
Wasn't me. I've been to the football stadium, though, and it's awesome. I
think their facility is like, the NFL is different than college, right? You're not in some arms race with your facility, so not everyone's always trying.
Yeah.
But from what I've been told, their practice facility, separate from the the black stadium is badass,
right?
It's the best in the league.
You got it, John. When you're performing like that on IG, you got to put it on the YouTube story. You got to get it on the YouTube story too.
Do you do the one where the green screens? Do you put those on the shorts?
I think I have. Or shorts, yeah, not stories. Got to get better.
Yeah, shorts.
Shorts do well. As you know, I love to watch good shows. It tends to happen not on purpose, well after everyone else has watched it. Like, I got 2 episodes of Sopranos left. Can't wait to see how it finishes. And been deep in that one. I watched Mad Men this year. Good show. Highly recommend.
When you watch Sopranos, do you fast forward when it gets kind of slow, or do you just let it go? That's a lot of television.
I mean, Tony's sex scenes sometimes.
With the Russian chick?
That was a few seasons ago, yeah.
Yeah.
But so last night, Wednesday night, I started watching Yellowstone.
Welcome to the party.
Thank you. 2 episodes. Episode 1 was 90 minutes. And Kevin Costner, you've watched it, so you may remember this, is talking to one of his sons. And he says to them,
I just started watching I Love Lucy. A little late.
You know what's great is, like, I know I got all the quotes ready, and people think like I remembered the show from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Sopranos. Like, no, I just watched it 2 weeks ago. That's why I know the Soprano quotes. But there's a scene where they're talking about one of his sons wants him to, and you may know the story better than me because I've only watched 2 episodes, wants him to, like, cut the trees down and let a neighboring town buy like 30,000 acres or whatever from him. Okay. And what he says is, son, there is no leverage like knowing that if somebody had all the money in the world, this is what they would buy. So when we asked, like, how much would the Raiders sell for, they would sell for however much money the richest guy that wants to buy the team can afford to spend. When you're like, oh, it's worth $6 billion. Yeah, it's worth $6 billion unless, whatever, Elon is in a bidding war with Bezos. Then it's worth more than $7 billion.
And Zuckerberg's interested.
Yeah, whatever. It's worth $7 billion, I guess, relative to the last one. But the reason these things have gone from the Warriors being worth $500 million to fucking billions within a few years is because these guys want to buy these teams. So it has nothing to, there's no comps. This is not a tight end contract. There are no comps, right?
But in fairness to Mark, they've added value by going to Vegas in the stadium.
They've added value, no question. But ultimately, like, if they were in Oakland and the new guy was like, I'll just buy him and move him to Vegas, they would, like, to me, Mark.
If they were still in Oakland, I think they would go for dramatically less.
There's no question. But they would still go when they got bought. Yeah. They'd be I think.
You wouldn't be able to get him for $850 million in Oakland.
I think they'd probably be it'd be one of the top team sales in the history of team sales.
I think if they're in Oakland, they're going for like 2 or 3.
Especially if the league told them, like, yes, we will help you move to Vegas, and the state of Nevada told them, we will give you $750 million for your stadium, right?
True, but you got to pay movie. I mean,
Regardless.
I hear what you're saying.
Regardless, anyway. So that's what they would go for. So people might be thinking, well, guys, I didn't watch Around the Horn on Wednesday. What are you talking about? So I saw Dove Climate, the guy with like 1 million Twitter followers who tweets a bunch of quotes, tweeted some Plaschke talking about the Raiders. I'm like, I DM'd him. I said, Dove, brother, where did you get that? And he said, well, let me get you the video. So here it is, John. This is Bill Plaschke, Wednesday on Around the Horn.
I'm saying right now, Josh McDaniels will be the coach this year and next year. The Raiders don't have the money to fire him, to pay him off. They're cash poor, and the Raiders are going to look at his defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham. They're 28th in the league in defense. They need a whole new defense. That's not McDaniels can fix that up.
Now, you're reporting the opposite, or you're just thinking the opposite?
I have learned the opposite. I've learned that they don't have the money.
I have learned that they don't have the money because Tony Reali says to him there, are you just guessing this, or are you saying they don't have the money to fire Josh? And he's saying, that is what I'm saying.
Do you take this as if Mark had an unlimited war chest, let's say he was Stan Kroenke, that Josh McDaniels would be fired either right now or lose his job at the end of the season? If you just had to assume and guess.
Not necessarily, because saying they don't have the money to buy him out is different than saying they would buy him out if they have the money, but they don't.
Yeah. But it's not even an option for them to think about it. Because
that's the part we don't know, right? Is Bill saying, I know that Mark would fire him if he could, but he can't? Or he's just saying it's not even an option for them? But I do think if they had an unlimited war chest, it would be more of an option than clearly it is at this point. Remember we talked the other day and there was a comment that Mark Davis made about, how did he say it? Like, not kind of like we have a contract and, you're supposed to work through contracts, or you're supposed to live up to contracts, or whatever it was. And I remember thinking, like, that's kind of a weird way to talk about it.
Well, it's like he was asked if the vote of confidence. He thought it was kind of stupid. He basically isn't the vote of confidence when I sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal?
Yeah.
Like, do I constantly have to, when things go bad, talk? I mean, these aren't exactly his words, but basically, like, the confidence is in the 4 year guaranteed contract that I signed him to. Because I did hear or read that he signed a 4 year contract, and honestly, guy, if that is true, that feels a little small modern day to not be 5, right?
Yeah.
I do think, looking back, the Josh McDaniels thing, remember Vic Tafur, who has been embedded with this franchise since you and I have been doing this for a long, long time.
I remember interviewing Vic when I was doing radio in Fresno, so it's been...
Do you remember last year during the hiring cycle when he reported that Josh really wasn't an option, like they weren't that interested, and then it happened? And I think most people gave it credit partly because it just felt like the Raiders, it was kind of a double whammy, right? Like Josh McDaniels was never going to leave. He was making, $4 to $5 million to be, he was the highest paid coordinator by a long shot in the NFL. He had an incredible gig. And he took the job, and then he brought his buddy, or maybe his buddy was signed first and then he came. However, the exact transaction happened, but I did feel like Mark got some credit for it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the press conference where Ziegler and then Josh kind of came out of the corner? Remember that?
It was supposed to be just a Ziegler press conference. Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah. And then the news had broke, and then Josh showed up. Like Mark was trying to do like the dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Since Josh started 6-0 when it was clear they were cheating, and the guy got in trouble for filming the signs, Belichick style, he's lost 24 31 games. It's going back to Denver, and then you can be like, well, that's a long time ago. Well, now we have evidence he's 2-7. And the team he's playing this week, which is one of the biggest embarrassments in the NFL, has a better record than him. Now, you can say they beat him head-to-head. They did, but you play other games besides just the head-to-head game with your division. So, like, you got to win them, and the Raiders are not. They're 2-7 is a horrific.
It's second worst in the NFL, and nobody's good this year, John. There's 3 games this weekend between teams with winning records. That's it. Again, this is every week. This is like the 5th or 6th straight week I've added it up. So 2-7 is bad. It's bad.
I mean, they're drafting second currently.
And if they were to lose this week, you can't argue the head-to-head thing anymore, because then you're 2-8, and Denver's 4-6. It's a big game.
Well, you lose this game. I mean, I wouldn't say he's assured because they're still right. They'd have 7 games left, but it would feel like you could put it in dark pencil that they're going to finish in last place when the team in third place is having a disastrous season. The head coach is going to get fired, right?
Right. The quarterback literally doesn't speak the same language as the receivers and the offensive line.
He makes up his audibles. Well, it's not actually made up. It's just what he used to do.
Just Seattle's. Do you remember a few years ago, Chris Mortensen on ESPN saying that the reason they traded Khalil Mack was that his words were they aren't a cash-rich team. When they didn't sign Khalil and traded him away, it was a cash flow issue. That was before they had a new stadium.
Well, what I think a Raider fan that thinks that you and I are probably piggybacking off this and kind of kicking the dead horse and, talking about things that we don't actually have factual evidence, like we haven't seen the books, go, well, they're in Vegas now. They have way more money. And I've always said that, like, yeah, in big picture, they were going to make infinitely more. Like, they couldn't make any money in Oakland. Toxic brand there. They couldn't get brand deals. The stadium, it was over, had to go. Even though when we were on radio, I didn't want him to leave because it was good for our business to have him around. 2 teams is better than 1 in theory, even though it's turned out it's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
But once they go, I never forget going to Vegas in 2020. And I stayed at the, what's the name of the hotel? It's whatever the hotel is.
Osmo?
No, it's the one like Italy where the water it's connected. It's
Fountains?
2 hotels.
Bellagio?
No, it's the water inside the hotel. Like it's Venice. But it's whatever that hotel's called.
Circus?
No, it's down at the end, kind of by the MGM, and they have a pizza joint in there. And I was talking to the guy that ran the pizza joint.
The secret pizza joint?
No, this is just like a high level, like one. The Venetian, yeah, the Venetian. And the dude that ran I was buying like 4 beers for us. We were all walking around. And I asked the guy, I said, how's business going? This is probably like maybe late July of the Rona in 2020. And he said, well, put it this way. There are 40 of us throughout the country. We were the number 1 for this like pizza chain by a wide margin. He's like, currently we're dead last. Obviously, Vegas, they, like many places, completely shut down. He's like, we're not doing any business. So in 2020, they got crushed. Remember, they weren't allowed to have fans.
Right.
People I think sometimes that Nevada is a lot different in California, but they just had a Democratic governor who actually got booted, and the new guy, the Republican, beat him. But the way they operated was very California-like in terms of the closures, no fans, like. And remember how mad Mark was, right?
Yeah, he refused to go to a game.
We think. Did he sneak in there? Only he'll know. But 2020 was really bad. And he still owes a lot of money. Like they're paying the notes.
He's got he took out a huge loan.
Yeah. So this notion that he never had cash to begin with, and then they had an expensive move. Now, sometimes like you take a hit for the big picture to eventually make a lot of money. And I'm sure that if it all went right, and never forget that former president who got shit canned last year before the season gave a bunch of money that he didn't have to the city of Oakland. It wasn't fraud. It was just they overpaid. And they are not Kroenke or Jerry where it's like, yeah, we just $20 million, put the comm in the wrong spot, cost some money. It sucks. Bad deal, but rounding error for the operation. Like that's
notice even Kroenke like fights for his money. No shot.
100%. The one thing I've never got, and I don't think it's really been well reported, is Mark Davis paying John Gruden? I mean, no one really knows. What would your guess be? No? Yeah? A little bit? I always just assume probably not.
I've assumed not. How could he afford to pay? But maybe that's why Josh is on a 4-year contract. Maybe they agreed to some buyout.
Kept his kid on staff.
Yeah, maybe they agreed to some buyout where he gave him some money. I don't know.
Yeah, and I had an agent that got mad at me for some comments I made, he was talking about the contracts the Raiders sign, and he's like, when you look at their signing bonuses, like Devontae, Max Crosby, some of these guys that got 70 guaranteed, Max like 55, their quote unquote signing bonus. Remember, Matt Ryan's was 95 guaranteed at signing. Devontae's was like 20. Max's was really small. Now, over the course of a couple of years, they're guaranteed all that money as the media money comes in. But Mark does not sign huge guaranteed at signing. He does guaranteed money, but the guaranteed at signing for these guys, Devontae's and Tyreek Hill's, I'm pretty sure was dramatically different. Because for Mark to get Devontae his money, unlike Stephen Ross, like you're going to get your money. You're just going to get it over the course of the season as the media rights deal comes in, where Stephen Ross or Jerry can just cut the guy the check. And then when that money comes in, it just whatever. It's just the extra money part of the business. Mark has to operate his business dramatically different than I would say at this point in time, the overwhelming majority of NFL teams.
I just Googled John Gruden lawsuit to see what the latest with the NFL, his lawsuit against the league is. I don't have the latest, but I have this article from May 25th, which I missed once upon a time. Let me read you this briefly. Attorneys for both sides declined to comment following a 90-minute hearing, although Gruden emerged from the courtroom declaring, quote, "Go Raiders."
Yeah, it feels like him and Mark are still pretty, because remember, Mark was pretty mad.
Mark was
not defending Gruden, but like, you guys fucked us. And he's not totally wrong. I mean, they went after Dan Snyder and the Raiders lost their coach.
Yeah. He feels
that
on.
That happened.
I mean,
he was. I mean, they came after him.
Well, not was, is. He is consistently picked on, right? Like when Mort says, not only did Mort say they're cash poor and that's why they lost Khalil Mack, he said something else too. What was it? I don't know. The point is, like, when you hear some of this stuff, it kind of sounds, the Mort one felt like I don't want to source guess here, but felt like there was some, like people around the league, I think it's pretty safe to say, especially given the way things went with LA, are happy to make them look bad.
People will think we're just in bed with the Niners, and I have no problem saying this. I don't think there's that big of a difference between Jed and Mark. Now, the difference is the league, the 49ers are very profitable for the NFL. But for example, if Mark had just done what Jed had just done, he would have gotten made fun of universally. Yeah, Jed really just, like, there's one guy that kind of picks on him. That's Pro Football Talk. Florio's kind of always headed out for the Niners. Jed just financed the mayor to take out the mayor that's been going after him in Santa Clara and lost. And the mayor that won, the incumbent, is in Stephen Ross's pocket, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, who has, as you alerted me to, billions of dollars worth of
$8 billion project going on near the Niners facility.
I didn't click on it, but I guess, I'm sure it's locally in the Santa Clara market. Jed had been part of commercials talking shit about the incumbent mayor. So this notion, like, it's not like Jed is some fucking wheeler and dealer. And like Davis, their family did not have much money until Levi's brought them a ton of cash. And it's clearly been very lucrative for his family. But when you see the Raiders, and this gets back to what you've always said about, like, whenever Bezos or whoever the guy is buys this team, it needs a complete blow up. And that starts with probably the name of the team. Just rebrand the whole fucking thing.
Last time you said that, I said that, which is true. I've said that. It just became 2 days of.
I know, but it's this team has problems.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the Raiders,
telling you what I would do if I bought the team.
Well, you and I have been talking a lot about Devontae, and I'm on several text chains. This guy was not a rocket ship. I mean, one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, the Packers are like the Cowboys, like the Yankees, like the Lakers. There are Manchester United. There are Chelsea. Like these are behemoths. And he was literally playing with a 4-time MVP who'd won back-to-back MVPs. He's one of the most famous, most talented players in the history of the league. And he said, I want out. Now, you can say Rodgers was getting weird, whatever. But he chose to do this. And his career, while his stats are still good, like his stats would have been good. He could play with me and you at quarterback. It'd be fine. His career is torpedoing. And the quarterback's crying. Stories are coming out. They can't buy up. Like this franchise, like when Mike Pettin once upon a time made fun of Jim Tom Sula, said, like, our building's on fire. Look at these guys. That building is on fire, guy. That is a franchise in peril.
They can't pay, and they can't pay for the fire department.
Well, think about this. The Commanders are a good example. their owner gets shit on 24/7, 365. I don't even know what to make when I read a new headline of like the attorney general, the Congress, like people are coming after him left and right. I'm like numb to it now. I'm like, tell me when they ever force him out, because it doesn't feel like they think they're close, but they're probably not as close as they think. And he clearly is not going down without a fight. But look at his team. Like, you'd be like, well, the owner, the team's in shambles. They're fucking 5-5. They just beat the Eagles, and you watch them, you go, yeah, they're not terrible. I could see them win 8-9 games and be right in the wild card mix right till the end. I mean, they're like a Cowboy and like a one other win away in the next month from being like, this Niner game is big.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's no team, I would say, over the last calendar year just gets consistently talked about more because the government's coming after their owner. And yet their team is like, Ron Rivera's got them just kind of riding the ship with fucking Taylor Heineke, who beats you and orders a pair of shoes. And fucking Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr's crying, Devontae Adams' career's headed down the shitter.
It's at a turning point. I mean, it's at a major turning point because they're going to have to find. I read an article of Pro Football Focus today. Big reader. I actually read this one. I did not realize this. Now, we know that Derek's contract does not have much guaranteed dollars on it beyond this year, but there are $32 million of guarantees that kick in 3 days after the Super Bowl. So the point of this PFF article was, if they're going to trade him, they probably have to do it before then, or they may do it before then. Now, my counter would be, well, if you're acquiring Derek Carr, you're not getting him for $15 million. Like, you understand you're going to have to pay him, whatever. So I don't think it's crazy that they would trade him after the $32 million kicks in. But I think part of what PFF, whoever wrote the article, I don't have it in front of me, was saying was like, well, if they can't cut him, like, you could end up stuck with him if you allow that money to become guaranteed, $32 million, then you have to either keep him or trade him.
You're saying if you cut him day one of league year, that money's already kicked in.
Correct. If you cut him 4 days after the Super Bowl, you owe him that contract's guaranteed.
Well, good thing is when you miss the playoffs, you have all of January to figure out.
You have all of January, and you agree, right? Like, even if he costs $32 million, if somebody likes him, now they'd rather pay 20. So I don't know that they would take him for 32 necessarily, but it doesn't make him untradeable. Quarterbacks are expensive.
I think at 32, Derek's pretty tradable.
Yeah, I do.
If it's basically a 1 year contract. They don't have
to trade him by the Super Bowl.
Do you think if they trade him, which, I mean, Coward's take when he cried was like, he's crying, and you and I had some, like, it's over. He thought even the week before, like, Derek Carr's not going to be on this team anymore. Yeah. And when he broke down and cried,
you're saying he said, I think that he realizes his time with the Raiders is over.
Well, he had thought the week before that, like, once they had, I forget who they lost to, like the Jags, so like Derek Carr's time's over. Yeah. And then you and I surmised that once he started crying, he kind of realized the writing on, like, he already kind of knew where he was at.
Yeah, knowing. Yeah.
So at $32 million, because to me, if he was like 15 or 20 and you get him for a couple years, maybe you could get is he not worth a first round pick anymore? Has his value diminished that much in a short period of time?
Well, you and I could hash this out without needing somebody else's opinion on it, but PFF's argument was second. If you're paying 32, like, coming off of this season, because I've been at
Wentz just went for 2 threes.
Does that mean Derek is worth a first or is not?
I mean, Matt Ryan, old, went. No, my point is, like, I think were you going to argue that a second's a lot?
No, I was just going to argue that I think I used to think a first you could easily get a first for him, and now I think that you're right, that a second would be a more likely trade compensation.
Could you get like 2 2s? You know, like a 2 this year, 2 next year?
Not if this season continues to go this way, I don't think, but you could get you could get a 2 and a 3, I would think. I do think there's still I mean, he still has value. When you look around at the number of teams out there that are going to need a quarterback, do the Texans end up with the first pick and love Will Anderson and go, well, we're not going to get we're not going to use that on one of these quarterbacks, but we also don't think Davis Mills is our future. Let's trade for Derek. Right?
I see what you did there. Like, would you be better off what about the Lions? You go, we got 2 top 10 picks. Why don't we just take 2 more guys, get rid of Goff, trade a second for Derek in the dome, Boom. Now we got Jamison Williams coming back. We take Will Anderson and we take a fucking tackle or a
But they can't
sweet linebacker.
Can you get Will Anderson without the first pick this year? I guess you could if somebody takes one of the quarterbacks.
I was texting someone the other day. The quarterbacks depend, Bryce, Will Levis, CJ Stroud. But a lot of people I know do not think CJ Stroud is going to go in the top 5. But let's just say Bryce and Will Levis. You can go, well, Will Levis, like I'm telling you, just because like you win or lose in college does not determine where you go in the draft. We've seen that. Will Anderson, there's a Penn State offensive lineman, and Georgia's defensive lineman might be the best player in the country, number 88. I've heard he's got some, I don't know if his character's perfect, but I saw DJ do a little mashup on Instagram, and he was just doing 360s, jumping over guys, slamming guys. He was the best player on their defense last year. So that's kind of the crew.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like there's like a Jamar Chase in this class. I don't think there's a Patrick Surtain, like a lock Hall of Fame corner. So it feels like those quarterbacks and then, a couple defensive linemen and, there's always like a couple offensive tackles that end up going really high. But you would say the Lions, even the Texans don't need an offensive tackle. They would probably go D-line or quarterback. I don't know if this draft is super loaded.
Also,
one knock I've heard on Will Anderson,
yeah,
he's 237. So it's like, like Bosa's 260.
Yeah.
He's not just a lock.
How much? He can't be Micah Parsons? Not really that type. It's not a linebacker.
Well, that's what he'd kind of have to project at that, but that's not really what he does. It's just, again, we're nitpicking the top 5.
Yeah. The other factor is bad teams have quarterbacks. Chicago has a quarterback. They're 3-7. Jacksonville has a quarterback. They're 3-7. Pittsburgh just took a first-round quarterback, although, I wouldn't be opposed to taking another one if I were them.
Micah Parsons was 246 at the combine.
Okay. But I'm no scout here, John, but I think it's dangerous to project a guy, to comp a guy to another guy. That's an exception to the rule, right? Micah Parsons is kind of an exception to the rule. It's like when you ask a player, like, who's your game like? It's like, oh, I'm like Katie mixed with Steph. It's like, okay, well, those are both exceptions to the rule. So that's a weird comp.
And it sounds like I'm being negative on Will Anderson. Like he's going in the top 5. I'm just saying he's not like never forget, Micah Parsons went 12th, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just easier when it's the guys like 265, Chase Young, 2,
right?
Right.
Nick
Bosa, boom, boom. It's like, well, project like Micah Parsons. It's easy to say now, but I think a lot of people are like, well, what's he do? And now it's a no-brainer. But when you got to do, well, what's he do? It sounds so stupid after the fact, but that is the conversation.
You do have to make it. You prefer to not have to make a decision. Oh, what does he do? Drop backs, throws bombs, really accurate, really athletic. He's a quarterback.
Well, I would
say
coach him. It's easier. Like if I was between Will Anderson, I was like, well, are we a 3-4? Are we a 4-3? And there's just an offensive tackle who's just, what's his name? That's on the Chargers, Slater. I said the wrong name. Rashawn.
You say Austin.
Yeah, if you just have like a lock left tackle, Laramie Tunzel, Trent, right, Lane Johnson, you just like plug and play, just tackle. You don't even have to think. Right,
yeah.
6'5", 320, boom. I would always go the pass rusher if there's just no questions. If it's like Chase Young, Nick Bosa. But the Micah Parsons, I think but this is what, I mean, this to me, you could argue if you're the Raiders and you're drafting 2 or 3, don't you just take some sweet dude on defense and keep Derek? Or do you take a quarterback?
Yeah, or you could sign another quarterback.
I mean, Josh has worked with Jimmy G. He's a free agent.
Jimmy G. I mean, Colt McCoy.
See, I don't think you go from Derek to Colt McCoy, though, can you? That's how you get fired if you're Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, that's true.
Like to me, Josh, if you're going to get rid of Derek, you either draft a guy really high or you got to go to like Jimmy.
It may not be up to Josh what to do with Derek.
Well, I've always heard that it sounds weird because he's made a lot of money from this guy. Is that, I don't know if Mark Davis views this guy like Kenny the Snake Stabler.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's very interesting, right? Josh might look at it like Ziegler might look at it like, guys, this quarterback is not the thing we got to address right now. We got other fish to fry. Let's use our picks there.
But that's what it feels like Derek's career has meant for the majority of his career after his ankle injury. It's how do we improve? How do we improve? And it just feels like when you're in that mode, you just get stuck with typically a below average football team because that's just kind of your mindset.
Right.
Like, how do you improve? I mean, think about the Eagles are a good example. Wentz shows a sign of weakness 1 year. It's like, boom, they draft Jalen Hurts. They just don't. There's just always urgency in the building. It's just like Alex Smith was killing. Andy could have won, assuming that injury doesn't happen, right? If he just stays on Kansas City, they just would have won 10 to 11 games because of the division they were in, because the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos, right? They would have probably won the division every year with Alex. But like they were like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And it just feels like
Opposite
the Raiders.
of the way the Niners operate with Jimmy.
Yeah, but they tried, right?
Well, they've won with him. I'm not making a joke. Like part of it is they've won with him, right?
But
like,
my point is they did get
won a
Trey
Super
Lance.
Bowl without, and I supported it. Like I thought but the Eagles won a Super Bowl without Carson, right? Just like Washington is like looking around going, we're winning with Heineke.
Yeah. Wasn't that why Carson had to like stay Wally pipped? Like you couldn't go back to Carson when you're winning with the other guy.
No. And just like the Eagles, like they won with another guy. They went back to him. They also internally knew the guy, which was probably a big factor, right?
I just think one thing that Derek's really benefited from is he played for so many coaches. It does feel like he's toward the end of his run with the Raiders.
Do you know who's favored in this game?
It's in Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you going to there? Isn't it going to be cold?
It's going to be freezing, John. It's snowing today.
You like Derek outside in a cold game?
Sunday going to be sunny, high of 46, low of 22.
But the kickoff is at 2:00. So, I mean, by 3 and 4, it's a little colder, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I do not like Derek in these cold weather spots.
And you were right. I mean, Broncos are favored by 2.5, 3. They're 3 right now at DraftKings.
Are you in agreement with like this is not a great spot like Derek in the cold?
I am in agreement, yeah. And I also think we were joking the other day, I don't think on the pod, that, could they screw around and win some games at the very end of the year when they're sitting in position for the second pick? And they could. I mean, they have good players. They've been in close games. But this situation feels pretty messy right now. The Raiders, that's the part of it it doesn't feel to me like they are really close, and they've had some bad breaks, and I don't know if it's a unified locker room or not, but it just feels like it could actually get a little worse here just because it's very weird.
Well, let's go back to the horse's mouth here. When Bill says this, he is by far the biggest columnist. I mean, he's one of them in my lifetime. I mean, he's the LA guy in that market. Well, who do you think he's friends with or got to know well over the last several years? I would guess it'd be Stan Kroenke. I would imagine Stan Kroenke's not that big on Mark Davis because
he's not. Stan wanted Mark and Spanos to pay a larger percentage of the money that the league owes the city of St. Louis because he blamed the Raiders and the Chargers for getting them into the lawsuit. Remember, because the Chargers and Raiders showed the city of St. Louis, hey, the Rams owe you money because they were trying to get the Rams to have to stay there so they could get LA.
And you would argue, like in business, like all's fair unless you're partners with the motherfucker, right?
Like
I mean,
Stan, Stephen Ross.
But isn't? Yeah, but I'd argue it's different.
No, it's different. It's different.
But you could. Jed might argue, like, yeah, but it's completely different
It's
when
totally
you.
Different. Because we're talking about the business of the NFL. Jed and Stephen Ross is a non-NFL business that they were opposed on.
So I would guess Stan's telling Bill this because everyone in the league knows this, that Mark doesn't have the money. The COVID thing directly impacts the poorer owners. They don't have the wiggle room to have a year where they get their ass kicked, right? And I don't blame Mark. He was really rattled by the no fans that year. Pissed him off. It was a big fucking deal to get people in. And then he finally gets them in. And a year later, their season's shitty. Yeah. And it's just one of those things when you move and you have no equity in the town, in a bright light town that you see Garth just announced, like they're used to stars,
I think it's part of why Bisaccia never had a chance. Like you got to sell season tickets. You got to get people excited. Josh McDaniels would do that. Right?
I know this. If I was Mark Davis and Tom is like on the fence this offseason, I would tell Josh, like, I'm all for you bringing Tom Brady here.
Yeah.
Right. Because we've talked, I think it's fizzled a lot, but I could see it come back up. Tom, Kyle, Niners, parents.
I do too.
I would imagine if he doesn't do his pure retire, like, I'll talk to some people. I would say the Raiders would have to put all their chips in the middle of the table to get it. And if I'm Mark, I would be leading the brigade of Josh. Fucking bring this guy here.
costs money, that costs cash. But, Tom has taken less money before.
Yeah, but Mark can afford to pay you over the course of a season, right?
I see. It's the
To me,
buyout.
it's
That's
more
the problem.
it's just more about like this team feels just dead.
Yeah.
Just in a star town.
They play the Broncos this week, and they feel dead. So, shut out by the Saints, who this week thought about changing quarterbacks publicly and didn't change quarterbacks. Monday, Dennis Allen said, might go to Jameis. And then Wednesday was like, nah, we'll stick with Andy.
His options are kind of shitty.
Yep. Blew him out, shut him out. Beat by the Jags, 17-point lead blown. Well, it can't get any worse, right? You're not going to lose to Jeff Saturday. Beat by Jeff Saturday and the Colts. So this idea they're just going to bounce back because Russell Wilson is shouting out Seahawks audibles to his Broncos teammates as Nathaniel Hackett plays out the string, it appears. I don't assume that it's just going to get better. I think there's the possibility that it gets weirder.
Well, I thought Nathaniel Hackett had, what would you say, like a top 5 quote of the year?
What was it? I don't know if I saw it. What was it?
Someone has to win this game.
Oh, yeah.
That was a real quote, correct?
I think I sent you that. That's right.
That wasn't a fake internet quote. That I saw it multiple places. I assumed it was real. I'm taking it on face value.
Yeah, I thought that was a Tafer tweet that I saw.
Yeah, someone has to win the game. And the pushback is done.
Well, everybody loses who watches this game, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it'll be an entertaining and close game. Does somebody have to win? I guess they could tie. You're right.
What's the afternoon slate?
Got it right here.
Because this game is, if I didn't have a rooting interest, I just kind of want to see this shit show.
So
I wouldn't want, if I lived in Florida, like this would do nothing for me.
Well, but John, this is like not a lot of options. You got that game. You got Cowboys, Vikings, great game, and Bengals, Steelers. That's it. Those are the afternoon games this Sunday.
So Dallas, Minnesota, I'm sure is Romo Nance, right?
Yep.
CBS afternoon. Yeah, I'll watch Denver, Vegas.
Maybe a little weather. That could be good. Sometimes those games are makes that fun. So
I don't like the dispersion here, guy. Why are we so heavy in the morning?
Second week in a row, too. I know.
I get it's part of the buys, right? There's 4 teams on buys, but holy moly.
Just thank God for Vikings, Cowboys. Because Bengals, Steelers are doing nothing for nobody.
They're just a couple of good games the weekend. I think Philly, Indy's pretty interesting now. I think the Jets, New England, sneaky pretty big game.
Well, yeah, Jets, New England is one of the 3 games with 2 winning teams in it this weekend. Think about that.
Do you like the Jets in this spot? I mean, they haven't beat New England
Not really.
7 years. But if they do win this game, I mean, they're kind of a playoff team then.
They just play.
Yeah, I think they played a couple weeks ago. Remember, he beat the shit out of Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good, and then Chiefs Chargers the Sunday night game. So we only during the day have 2 games with winning teams.
I'll keep an eye on Fields.
Yeah, but he's playing the Falcons. He's playing the Falcons. Bears are 3-7. Falcons are 4-6. Playing the Falcons. To your point on the Eagles game, though, Colts, they win the game. They're 500 now. I don't think it's a great spot for Jeff Saturday's squad, John. Coming off of Jeff Saturday's first game and a win, and you get the Eagles coming off of a loss. Now the game
short week though.
Short week.
Bunch of injuries. Goddard's on IR. AJ Brown's banged up. The Eagles, but this is why you go 8-0. You can have a 3-3 stretch, and all of a sudden you're 11-3, right? Yeah. It's the best part of. We saw it last year with the Arizona Cardinals.
If you listen to this before Thursday Night Football, Titans, Packers. Yeah, it's not. I'm excited about that.
Commanders are playing Houston. Are we going to look up and the Commanders are all of a sudden 6-5?
Yeah.
I do.
Remember, we talked about them. They play the Giants twice before they play the Niners, and they play the Falcons at home. The Falcons at football team next week. So
I do kind of like the Lions at the Giants this week as an underdog.
I like the Giants to fall apart, but I felt that way for several weeks. What's the
Seattle's off.
boy, Lions love to almost. I watched an incredible edition of Bad Beats the other night on SVP because I was
Who was it?
watching Duke. It was Duke, Kentucky, I think was on.
Was that the double overtime game?
There's actually been, well, maybe it wasn't Duke, Kentucky. There's actually been the last couple of nights, like yesterday, I turned on the TV. It's like, oh, Texas, Gonzaga at Texas. The place was rocking. I was like, this I can watch. This
Who won?
Texas. Texas hit a bunch of threes. And Gonzaga hosts Kentucky this weekend at Gonzaga. Or maybe it's in Spokane, but not at their place. But regardless.
Gonzaga still got the white guy with the headband on. This is seventh year on his
Drew
team.
Timme. Yeah, Drew Timmy's there. Anyway, Bad Beats was like some major college program was up like, 28 or something. Some walk-on who never plays comes in. They show like this was what was incredible. It's like a 28-point spread. Let's say you're favored over me by 20. I don't remember exactly the teams, but it was maybe Missouri was favored by 28. The other team is at the free throw line with like a second and a half left. And the guy misses or makes the free throw to affect the line. And you could see students in the background like dying over it. The Missouri was not going to cover whatever it was, 28 and a half, by like a point. Some walk-on gets the ball, takes a half-court jumper, and hits it. And the place starts going crazy.
The walk-on for the Power 5 team that's ranked.
Yes, that needed to cover the big spread.
And hits a half-court shot?
Yeah, just like a pull-up half-court shot.
Nothing but net or bank?
Nothing but net, I think. It was like a deep
That's pretty
step.
sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. But I brought that up because I was going to look at the line on one of these games.
Does college basketball usually start this early?
Yes.
Right around now is like its sweet spot?
No, it started like probably a week and a half ago.
Well, I turned on,
last week was the game on the aircraft carrier.
Because I was watching, whatever, they usually do that huge, like 2 teams or 4 teams, like Madison Square Gardens, like Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, and like Kansas. You know how they basically do that in some semblance every year. One of the teams was like 5-0. I'm like, they've already played 5 fucking games.
Oh, wow.
It's like, or maybe it was Duke or Michigan State was 4-0. I was like, well, how's this possible? How have they played all these games?
Yeah, that's a lot of games. Last night, Gonzaga, Texas.
When did they start training camp? Right when school starts?
Beginning of October, I think. Yeah.
How's Bobby Hurley doing?
Not perfect. Not fantastic. Yeah.
Have they lost? Pac-12,
I think they lost to a SWAC team, yeah.
Who's supposed to win the Pac-12 this year? UCLA?
UCLA.
They still got the dude that's been on the team forever, too. I saw
Jaime
the
Jaquez?
picture. He's a consensus
And Tiger
All-American.
Campbell. And
How
Tiger
old-
Campbell.
These guys ever leave? Tiger Campbell still the point guard?
Hell yeah, he is.
I guess that's the way to win in college basketball, right? Not go one and done. Just build a team with like Drew Timme's that stay for 7 years.
UCLA's got some one and done guys too, though. So
Are
yeah.
they right?
And so did Gonzaga, right? Gonzaga had Jalen Suggs and Drew Timme and Corey Kispert
And Chet.
and Chet. Who, yeah, I mean that's the
It's a perfect little balance.
yeah. But there's only so many programs that can really pull that off. Programs. You mentioned the Eagles, John. In the last 24 hours, Eagles signed Ndamukong Suh today, right? That was today.
Crypto's down, bro.
They signed him to USD.
Well, did you see Cade Cunningham?
Yeah, I did see Kid Cudi.
All of his signing bonus BlockFi.
Yeah, suboptimal.
It's one
Like-
thing is like, well, you don't lose if you don't sell. It's another thing if the thing goes to zero, right?
Right.
It doesn't exist.
So Ndamukong Suh signs with the Eagles. Linville Joseph signs with the Eagles. What'd you think?
Really quick on the BlockFi thing, and why wouldn't you just like you would never be like, well, give me all my money in Netflix stock? Why don't I just pay you the $10 million and then you buy the stock, right? Wouldn't that be the safest way? Why do you want to get it into the currency? That's what I don't quite understand.
There's some tax. Well, you know what? I think you do it that way because the company pays you an additional fee to do it that way, right? They pay you an endorsement fee to do that.
Maybe.
Right. Cade Cunningham gets whatever, $5 million from BlockFi to take all of his money in crypto. I think that's why you do it. Because some agent's like, I negotiated this deal for you. We got you $5 million on top of your whatever million.
So you're getting $12 million, so you get an extra 5. So you're just like, well, shit, this is like free found money, right?
And nothing's stopping you if you don't want it in crypto to just turn
Cash
it into
out.
American, U.S. dollars.
But then it goes up, and you're like, I'll just ride this bad boy out. And
Absolutely.
then
Feeling
SBF
pretty-
happens, and it goes to 0.
Yeah. Anyway, so Linville Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, both Eagles.
I saw a tweet today, now that I can venture back into those lands, and it said that over the last 2 weeks, the Eagles have signed or traded for Robert Quinn, Ndamukong Suh, and Joseph. And basically, like, they're never satisfied. And having worked for Howie, they just lost 1 game. They're 8-1, and they are a 7-point favorite on the road. Like, they're really good. But their mindset is just not to like, well, I know we traded up and got this guy 370-pound run stuffer, Jordan Davis. He'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll just patchwork it till then. No, they said, fuck that. And they went and signed 2 guys. And on the flip side of, like, the Eagles are clearly not going anywhere for the next several years, right? They have a core of younger, talented players. I don't know if you saw the draft order right behind the Raiders is this team called the Saints. That's the Eagles pick. So, like, Will Anderson might be an Eagle, or the Penn State tackle. Like, they're going to get a sweet player. And then they also have their pick later. So the Eagles are going nowhere, but their mindset is like to be very aggressive. Howie, just haven't seen him. It's like he's always trying to patch the hole, and it's never just keep your fingers crossed. This guy's going to be okay. And I do feel like the Niners have kind of done that with Armstead and Kinlaw. They just kind of kept their fingers crossed for the last several weeks. They signed that random T.Y. McGill, like, after they do a workout. It's like, we'll see if this comes back to bite them, because I think the reason they got Suh, and maybe it'll come out, is Ndamukong, no one's offering him any money. I'm not just going to play for anyone for the veteran minimum. But it gets to this point in time, how he goes, you can win a Super Bowl here. Like, you just won a Super Bowl a couple years ago with the Bucs. How about you win another one? It's like, shit, I'll do it. Well, couldn't the Niners have made that same pitch? And they've literally needed bodies, because when I was watching the game against the Chargers, you feel their defensive line it's not the same. Now, they still are productive because they have one of the best players in the league, but top to bottom, it is nowhere near, because they're missing, even if I don't even count Kinlaw, which that should be a problem. Like, let's just not even assume he's coming back. Like, they've been missing Armstead now for a long period of time. And it just kind of feels like they're just hoping that it just comes back, because they've shown their actions. They'll just bring up a guy on a practice squad or sign a random guy. Like, Howie did something real, sign real players, especially Suh, right? He's an older veteran, but he would play for the Niners. So
Linville Joseph started 12 games for the Chargers last year.
It'll just be interesting to see how this plays out with those 2 guys, specifically Kinlaw is going to come off IR, and Armstead, if he can ever return, and how these guys help, because the Eagles also go, like, Jordan Davis is coming back in a couple weeks from this ankle sprain. I just think the Niners, they've just been much more prudent with this position, because in the past it's worked out that way. They've been able to.
And they're, to be fair to them, John, they develop it really well. They are deep at that spot, right?
But just signing a guy off the street doesn't do it, doesn't factor into, like, losing draft picks, or it's not like you're paying Suh any money, right?
Right. I just mean, like, the Niners, it's not crazy for them to have some level of confidence in that, in what they have ahead of whoever they're signing off the street in a given, week 11, right?
Now, on this specific player, Kasarik was in Detroit with Jim Washburn and Suh. So, I guess there is a chance he doesn't like him.
Yeah, that's true.
But Joseph is a guy, like, there just are veteran bodies out there, and it just feels like the Niners have tried to patchwork it a little bit. And this isn't like the downfall of their team, but the Eagles, like, their mentality is always double down, double down, double down. That's That's just Howie.
It's Rams-ish, but with picks.
It's like Rams they're smart with it.
Football Outsiders has a stat called power success, the percentage of runs on 3rd or 4th down with less than 2 to go. So 3rd and 2 or less, 4th and 2 or less, in which it gets picked up. The Eagles are dead last in that stat. Offenses pick it up 86% of the time with the run. The Niners are actually 4th to last in that stat, 78%.
Well, because
now the Niners are also, like, top 10 in sack rate, right? Bosa's second in the league in sacks, but
Yeah, but to me, this is more about the run and the beat
Yeah.
that they're missing.
Yep.
And I saw someone in the chat was like, mid-season signings rarely work out. Yeah, but you can also cut the guy in a couple weeks. You're not tied to anything. Like when you make the trade for Robert Quinn or Christian McCaffrey, like you've made a move to acquire. When you just sign a guy off the street, it's always weird to be like street free agents, especially when they're like, Ndamukong Suh's probably made $200 million. Like he's not some like unemployed loser.
I was on my couch in my mansion.
Homeless. I've just been tweeting about fucking BlockFi and interest rates, bro.
But
that's
having breakfast with my guys in Nebraska.
To me, a street free agent, for the most part, is very, very low risk because whatever you get's gravy, and if it doesn't, you just move on. Coleman's a good example, right? Early this season, Niners needed a running back. Boom, just signed him. He gave him a couple of carries. If it works, great. If not, you just cut him, right? There's just you're not tied to him. That's the best part about the NFL. You can just always get in and out of, honestly, the majority of players on your team.
Yeah. I know you have not watched episode 2 of Hard Knocks. I'm about halfway through you watched episode 1 before I did. Then I watched it. It was really good. The Cardinals midseason Hard Knocks. Episode 2 leads up to their game with the Rams, which they won with Colt McCoy. And one thing, and I saw some people tweeting about this, it was part of why I wanted to watch it. I was an advocate for the 49ers signing Colt McCoy when we thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be gone, is that I wanted to see just the comparison of what it's like with Kyler, what it's like with Colt. Colt clearly a very good leader, belief in him, all that kind of stuff. And you said the other day you would prefer a hammy kind of ridden Kyler to maybe a full strength Colt McCoy. We'll see what we get as of Thursday.
You see, they both were on the practice field today.
Yeah. My guess is Kyler gets cleared, but I don't know. I mean, it's a hamstring.
What'd you think about the montage where Kyler's like, lock in to himself in the first episode?
Yeah. I wasn't overly impressed. They're weird. They're weird.
They're bizarre.
Because you're right. Everyone has always said this. Cliff is kind of likable, even though from the outside, the perception, right, is like he's good looking. He just got the job because he has the look. But he's never really won, whatever. But clearly he grinds, right?
How pimps his pad. It's pretty sweet.
Awesome. He's like, there's Camelback. Never see it because when I leave, it's dark. When I get home, it's dark. Steve Keim was driving to work in the sunlight. But
he did drop too. Like, it's probably good I'm not married because I can just come home. I'm stressed out and just do myself.
He watches the Dateline murder mystery shows on Friday nights. That's his thing.
How sweet was that room that he watches?
I got caught on one and I was like, this is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, there's about
some rancher. It was actually like some Yellowstone style thing. But Buda Baker gives a shit. Like, that's the guy, if you told me he is or isn't playing, wouldn't matter a lot. Just when you watch, like, holy smokes, this guy's the heart of their team.
Right? I think JJ obviously cares.
JJ clearly cares. Tries to be a leader. But, their thing was, we got 3 games. We got to win them. Well, they lost the first one. They won the second one. I don't know really what they're playing for on a road game in Mexico City, but the one thing that jumps out when you watch them, it's just the people they have. They've got Buda, they got JJ, they got Hopkins. They've just got enough guys that can.
I'd say Isaiah Simmons makes some splash plays.
Isaiah Simmons. What was the other guy we were talking about earlier?
Xavier Collins.
Xavier Collins had an incredible pick 6 last couple of weeks. So pressure. They're just playing a team with the pressure on them.
They cut Eno. About 7 people claimed him. I've liked Eno since.
Yeah, you have.
He was. I wonder if he did something. I saw his playing time was down a little bit, but it feels a little more than that. Like, it's a playing time, and did he not show up to a meeting? Like, as a fuck you, and you're losing. It's just your classic. It's the move I love. Like, cut somebody, just rattle some cages. Because I do think it works. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, wait, they just cut the guy who was starting for us 2 weeks ago. I like that move.
Yeah,
because I just think it kind of keeps Kyler wouldn't even realize, but just some other guys. Because part of like Buda screaming at those guys. This is a major difference between the Niners and Arizona, is when your best players truly care, you're in really good shape. And Buda's a good example. He's the best player on the team, and he truly gives a shit. But he feel like he's kind of on an island. And then you have this, like, I don't want to say he's a has-been, but like JJ's success was not with these guys. He was a star with the other team. And now he's an old guy kind of like patched together. Where the Niners, like, their heartbeat is like Fred Warner is George Kittle? Is Deebo Samuel? Is Trent Williams? Is Nick's not like the vocal leader, but just his play, like he's flying around there like he's Buda Baker.
Did you see the
Give me Ward.
NFL Hard Knocks, not the Hard
Oh, it's
Knocks, the NFL
hilarious.
films of Hufanga? I mean, not Hufanga. Warner giving the hype up speech, and then Bosa is like, "Yeah, everything he said, man."
And it just shows you your best players have to matter the most in terms of their give a fuck.
Yeah.
And Belichick's thing, because remember in their heyday, they would always trade out of the first round. It's like, well, I could never have a guy being like the third highest paid guy on our team as a rookie. And he refused to do it. And it was a psychology thing. And I don't know how every human being, I don't care if you've worked in what corporate office, anyone listening to this has had a normal person job. Obviously, the numbers are a lot different than people making 30, 40, $50 million. But if it's $80,000 and $120,000 or $130,000 and $200,000, that's what we talk about in the office, right? Wait, this guy, they really gave that guy that title and paying him that much. That guy. But you know, the one guy who's the best, you're like, yeah, he's worth every penny. It's like, he honestly, he's making $400K. What would this company be with that? What would our division be without that guy? And you all know it. He's making $45 million. $45 million?
John, they put a clause in his contract that says he has to study.
$45 million.
Who do you have to tell to study? There was a, I didn't think of this just now.
How bad is his body language?
Body language is bad. He's not.
He's small,
really
so his body language looks worse.
Then they cut to Colt, and Colt's like kind of talking. Colt in episode 2 was almost coaching the quarterback's coach at one point, like talking to him, like hyping him up. And Colt's like taking notes, and Kyler's sitting there with like a single sheet of paper on the desk in front of him, which I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put too much on it, but it made me think of you saying the other day when they showed him, he wasn't really even like listening to what the play calls were. And I said, well, maybe it's because you don't need to. He just knows all the plays. But
did you know who the third guy was in the first episode? The third quarterback?
Well, I didn't, but then I saw the other day Trace McSorley or whatever.
Yeah, because when he came into the game, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Just the other guy sitting there.
Yeah.
And then when he came into the game, when Colt kind of like rolled up on his knee and had to be helped off, it's like, oh, that's Trace McSorley that was in the other quarterback room.
Yeah.
It was like, Bailey Zappi divided by 3 from, some random school
Cooper
in Louisiana. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's Trace McSorley. I mean, at one point in time, Trace McSorley might have been like, I'm just as good as Kyler Murray in college.
Right.
And then he wasn't. And now Kyler makes 45, and that guy's basically fringe practice squad, gets elevated on game day when there's an injury. It's crazy the difference, right? At one point in time, Trace McSorley's starter on a team that's winning 11 games in the Big Ten. And in his mind, even if like NFL people aren't viewing him as like a top 150 player, he's got to be thinking like, I'm beating all these teams. Like, why couldn't I play in the league? And then 3 years later, you're just like holding on to your career for dear life. It's kind of just crazy how fast that realization you come in.
And that at that spot, you get replaced real quick because it's not worth keeping you around if you're not on a rookie salary, unless I think you can be good.
Yeah. I used to like him at college a little bit.
Really?
Kind of crazy Colt McCoy's hit, 35 years old. He's had a long career.
Well, one thing when you watch it, and I have a buddy who knows Colt really well and just has always swear like Colt is really smart and is better than like his opportunities have been shitty, teams he's been on, whatever. But when you watch him, like you get it. Like he's a leader. He knows what everyone's supposed to be doing, not rattled. You just watch Colt and you're like, okay, I get it. I understand. Like he's not some guy who went to Texas and didn't have it. Like he had it.
Well, think about this. The game that it was Saban's first championship, right? Saban's quarterback was McElroy, who has been on television now for like 6 years and who was, I think, like a 5th or 6th round draft pick to the Jets. Now,
Colt was a true freshman, right? The guy Garrett Gilbert was a true freshman.
Yeah, I think Colt was probably like a junior.
Because Colt got hurt, and then Garrett Gilbert had to come into the game.
Yeah, and Gilbert was supposed to be the next great hype, and that kind of derailed his career. Like this guy.
Yeah, that was a tough spot.
But think about Colt as is McElroy essentially the ESPN's number 2 guy for college, or would that be the dude that eats with Sean McDonough?
Blackledge?
Yeah. Who would you say their number 2 college crew is for ESPN?
I don't really probably McDonough and Blackledge.
But I think McElroy, might be the third.
Is he doing games? Choosing?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they are 3.
He's good. I mean, I like Greg, but he's been doing media now for for a long time.
Yeah.
You know? But it just like he's same age, 33, 34, 35, right in that like age range. It just you play for that long, a lot of guys in your classes like Aaron Murray now is doing games on television. Aaron Murray's probably like 30. I mean, you get guys that played after you. It's pretty impressive that Colt has had the career he's had.
Who did I just see? AJ McCarron.
I think he retired, didn't he?
No, he got drafted. He's in the XFL draft. He just got drafted or assigned or however they did it.
XFL's coming back?
Yeah, with The Rock.
Oh, yeah.
On the Battlehawks.
Was AJ McCarron like the number 1 overall pick?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Oh, in that league? I don't know. There's a few quarterbacks whose names you would recognize, like 3 or 4 of them.
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Kyle Slaughter. I remember that name. Why? He was
I
in
don't.
the league. Was he on the DeAndre Francois?
Remember that? Yep.
Florida State. Ben DiNucci.
Remember that? Had a moment.
Steven Montez. Remember him from Colorado?
Yep.
McCarron and Luis Perez. Was he the guy that like went off in the USFL and everyone was like, this guy can play? Might have been, might not have been. Don't recall. Shanahan Wheelie says 3-7 against Arizona. It's weird. Yeah, that's the other part of that game. You and I talk about Coach of the Year all the time, and every year, I guess we talk about it all the time. But I was on the phone talking to Yogi Roth yesterday, and he was like, I was like, who do you think the coach? We should start talking about Coach of the Year. He's like, how is it not Kalen DeBoer at UW? Because I saw somebody put out a list today, National Coach of the Year, and they had Kalen DeBoer at Washington second because Washington won 4 games last year. And I looked it up. He is having the best debut season for a Washington football coach ever when you just go back and look at everyone's first year. They have a shot to win 10 games this year, which is pretty crazy.
Who they play this week? Like Colorado?
They play Colorado this week, and then they play Washington State in the Apple Cup next week.
Which is a sneaky hard game.
Yeah, it's a very hard game. But one thing I always say about Coach of the Year is like, I love an underdog. Everyone loves the underdog. Everyone loves a story where somebody was supposed to suck and turned out to be good. You're a walk-on who became the star quarterback. Your team got picked last, and you won the league. You left a thriving business to do something on your own and made it work. Like the underdog is that thing is that is that like American story, right? Like that's how we look at this thing. Like came here with nothing, a nickel in his couldn't rub 2 pennies together, and he founded this business. Like the underdog is fantastic. But one thing I said to Yogi was, as related to the Pac-12, and this is a 49ers discussion, is like, I love the underdog too, but I don't think we give enough credit when you are picked to be the number 1 team or the number 1 at whatever, and you get a lot of money and you live up to the contract, or you get drafted high and you live up to the pick, or you get picked to win and you actually win. Like, I don't think we give that enough credit. What it takes to actually get all the hype and then live up to it. What it takes to play every week with a target on your back and then live up to it. Well, this year, you, me, and anybody else said Brandon Aiyuk is going to have a breakout season. And I'll tell you what, Brandon Ayuk's having the breakout season that everybody thought he was going to have. And I don't think it's getting any attention really to that degree that it did in the preseason and in fall, because everyone just kind of, it was a big story then. He's going to have a breakout year. We were all falling over each other trying to get our take out on Brandon Aiyuk. And it's turned out to be right. The Niners put out this stat. He has 6 or more catches and 80 or more receiving yards in 4 straight games, the longest stretch by a 49er since Tito did it in 2001.
Wow.
He is 17 catches away from setting a new career high for receptions, which, don't forget, he actually was pretty productive as a rookie. He only played in 12 games, but he had 60 catches, right? If he had played in every game as a rookie, he might have caught 80 balls. But Brandon Aiyuk, now I know he had the fumble the other day and the drop in the end zone, but he's been, it feels like, especially the last 3 weeks, their most productive receiver.
Wasn't it Mike Tomlin that said
Yes.
the podcast with McVay, like, everyone thinks that, to be a good coach is to get a C player and make him a B, but he's like, actually, most coaches worth their salt can make a guy overachieve. Can you take your A players and have them sustain playing like A players consistently?
Yep.
And if you think about the Shanahan era, like, they've had some holes, right? And they've had some flaws over the years, but their best players have dominated. And the last year is a great example, right? Is their top players played like stars. And that basically band-aided some of their issues. And you look at it right now, like, there's not some perfect team. I mean, their right tackle, despite what their GM says is a major problem, they're missing defensive tackles. They got problems, but their best players just like Debo statistically isn't last year, but to me, he looks every bit as normal as these Debo Samuel. Like, he's just at any single moment a play could happen. Obviously, the other cast of characters are all balling, but this guy last year made a step, and it's clear like he's a high-end player. I don't know where he ranks. Like, if you did a draft from scratch,
It's tough.
It's a loaded position. He's not going to go in like the top 10, but it feels like one of those classic, like, and I'm not comparing him to like peak Klay Thompson, but remember like back in the day when you like ranking players and like no one would consider like Klay like a top 12 player, but it's like, well, if you did a draft from scratch, you get this guy like 22, like that's an incredible, like that's what it feels like Aiyuk. Because one, he's a winning player. Like, I can take him against the best teams and he can ball.
Yeah.
And I just think even the play that he fumbled, and I think you said this on the post-game deal, that it was a little freaky, right? He's turned into a guy, the helmet hits him, and that causes a fumble. Like, Jerry Rice probably fumbles that ball, right? I mean, that's just collision and which is speed. For a smaller player, relative to like bigger receivers, he plays pretty big. He's physical, one, when it comes to the, just tackles. Like, he's not a puss. Did you see the montage of Tyler Lockett? He's basically on a mission that every time he catches the ball is to not get tackled. He just hits the ground. It's just a classic, like, and someone just did this montage of he gets wide open, but he never takes hits. But how about Brandon's, and you saw this in camp, but you never truly know, his ability to attack the ball as he's like still running. It's one of those, it's a great skill of not having to stop. I don't body catch. I attack the ball as I'm moving, so I just keep on going.
Yeah.
He's a smooth cat.
Yeah. And I even think it was bad and it cost him 7 points and it could have cost him the game. The drop in the end zone against the Chargers the other day, but I maintain immediately, and if you go back and watch it, to me it was less a drop and more it was I'm not a receiver technician. It was a mistake in another part of how to receive. He started going to the ground. I think he expected on the goal line that throw to come in low because a defender might be over your shoulder. He started going to the ground, and then Jimmy threw it chest high, and it became a very difficult catch. So I'm not saying it wasn't Brandon's mistake, but to me it was a little different than your normal drop, kind of lack of concentration or bad hands or whatever drop.
How about the route? It was nasty.
The route was so nasty. That's part of what made it killer, is that he dusted the guy.
He Instagrammed it that night after the game.
What'd he say? The route?
Just did like puke emojis that he dropped it.
Yeah. I think if you watch it, he is going down expecting to catch it low, and then the ball's not low. And, to Jimmy's credit the last few weeks, I think part of the Aiyuk production is like Jimmy's made some good throws to Brandon over the last several weeks.
Agreed.
Aiyuk right now, John, tied with Juju in the NFL, 29 targets, 49 catches, or no, 49 catches? 44 catches. So, like I said, 17 away from a new career high, is 23rd in the NFL. Just as you were thinking about.
He's tied with Juju on the amount of targets for the season?
Yeah.
Like, you're just saying, like, in the hierarchy of wide receivers, like, they have the same amount of targets?
Yeah, Tyreek 1, Diggs, Kupp, Jefferson, Devontae, Lamb, Pittman, Deontay Johnson, DK, Christian Kirk, Waddle. I could keep going, but
yeah.
I mean, the Miami game, by the way. Oof. Yeesh. Ooh.
Well, the key is going to be, you're going to have to sack the little guy, right? You're going to have to get pressure on their offensive line.
Yeah.
You can't let him sit. One thing I noticed, just their box score, they were like second to last in the league in rushing. Well, part of trading for Jeff Wilson, did we talk about when they made the trade, maybe it was people in the chat, like, can you trade a guy for a team that you're going to play? Like, he dramatically helps their team. Like, they're balanced now. They can run for 100, and obviously they can throw for a lot of yards. Like, that really helps them specifically.
I got to give people in the chat credit because I dismissed it. Like, I don't care about that, whatever. I hated the trade just because I didn't like trading Jeff Wilson because I thought you might need him. But actually, it's a legitimate point. Like, you're going to play them. If you're a 9-2 team, who cares? But you're not. You're 5-4. So you better be good by the time you play him because he could beat you. And I dismissed it at the time, but yeah, that could be a big deal.
Yeah. They're potent.
They're on a bye this week. Next week, so they're 7-3 into their bye. They play the Texans the following week, so they'll probably be 8-3 coming to play the Niners. You legitimately could flex that game, although Colts, actually, we talked about, you and I, Colts-Cowboys is the Sunday night game. I don't know, have the Cowboys ever in the history of their, not that they've been flex football that long, but been flexed out of a Sunday night game?
No.
Probably not. So,
well, I'd say, too, with the Buffalo blowing that game to Minnesota, we'll see what the Jets do this weekend. Like, I would imagine people inside the Jets and Miami are thinking, can we win this division? Right? It's not like Buffalo is undefeated.
Right.
I mean, they've lost 2 games, and those two teams have 3 losses. So if the Jets were to win this weekend, they would be 7-3. In Miami next week,
and the Jets have beaten Buffalo head-to-head.
I saw right before.
And Miami has. That's right. They both have beaten them head-to-head.
The snow game, they moved it. They put them in Detroit. Have we mentioned that?
We have it. That's a damn shame. 6 feet of snow. Thunder. What do they call it? Thunder snow? Is that
thunder
what's coming
snow,
in?
Yeah, thunder snow.
How do you not play a football game in thunder snow, man?
I don't think it's safe because like poles fall down the weight. 6 feet.
I also saw somebody say it makes it hard. Like, people got to drive to the stadium. The team is flying in. So do they just give away tickets for that in Detroit? What do they do?
It's a hell of a question. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, you're like, should we go see the Bills?
The hell yeah, you say that, right? This is going to be better than the Papa John's Bowl or whatever the hell they're going to give us later in the year.
That sucks if you're a Bills fan. You're like, my team's sweet and we lose a home game?
Yeah.
I get with thunder snow, but holy, I'd be pissed.
I bet their Browns game actually I bet that's like a good crowd for that game.
I bet so too.
Browns fans.
Here's
the worst. Check this out. You know who Buffalo plays next week?
Patriots?
No, they're in Detroit on Thanksgiving.
Oh, so they just stay.
So now they'll play back-to-back games in Detroit, but they're the home team. I wonder if you're them, do you want to take the visitors' locker room just so you can just have the same locker room that's kind of crazy for Buffalo.
That's
Detroit. Honestly, if you're Detroit, you're pissed. Like, wait a second. We get a home Thursday game and this team plays in our stadium the week before the Thursday night game?
Do you think they're all going to bring their shit? They're just going to stay there for the week now?
Absolutely, because the game is Sunday. You got to come back Wednesday, right? You just stay Monday, Tuesday, right?
That sucks. Yeah.
Is Detroit on a bye or do they play this week?
Detroit plays Giants.
That
You're right.
sucks.
To me, it's a little bit better that Detroit sucks. If Detroit was good, I'd be like, this is bullshit.
Wow.
But I think the league would be like, what do you want people to die?
Yeah, nothing you can do. You just lost your Thursday advantage.
When I was driving in the car, I heard someone say, I guess they've done this years ago, maybe 2014 or 15. The Buffalo, similar situation, played a game in Detroit. I think it's always like it's always like in their back pocket. The Lions are gone, you can always come here. Probably not that far of a flight, I would guess. Logistically, relatively easy.
Yeah. Huh.
What is our Thanksgiving weekend? Bills Lions, is that the opener? Yeah. That's a early morning game. Then you got Giants Cowboys. The NFL just put the Cowboys on at about 2:00. They're not even messing around on that one. We talk so much about Detroit being grandfathered.
Which game? Cowboys what?
Well, the Cowboys are playing in the second game. Are the Cowboys now just the Lions are just grandfather? Well, aren't the Cowboys too? I mean, they play every Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
in the afternoon.
Cowboys don't suck. That's why no one complains about it.
And then New England, Minnesota.
Where is that game? Please say New England.
Minnesota.
You can't play two things. One, I'd rather, just because I want it to be competitive too. You can't play an indoor game on Thanksgiving, although I guess the Cowboys do it, but and the Lions do it, so it's all indoor games.
All
Oh,
3 of them. Yeah.
that's brutal. I might as well have a Mai Tai.
Might have to use Tito's.
All right, everybody. On that note, so Niners don't play until Monday. Obviously, we typically go live after the Niner game. The plan right now is to actually still do a quick show, just like a tight show on Sunday, and then of course still go live Monday night. We sticking to that plan?
Yeah. Might be our Thanksgiving shows.
Yeah, my birthday. Exactly. Our Thanksgiving show. So, all right. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Adios. Pelota.